Welcome to Dexon Photography. My name is Jannis Dirksen and today I have a camera review for you. I have here in my hands the Canon Eos RP. I bought it 1.5 months ago. I took about 30,000 images with it, also filmed with it, and now it's time for me to give you my experience with it. This review is not so much about the technical stuff. It's not about reading you the spec sheet. It's more about my experience with it, my feelings for it, and the images I took with it. So let's start. The reason I bought this camera, that's the why, is not to take pictures. I just bought it for one certain project that was important to me, to film photo shoots where I photograph 100 people on the streets on one weekend, and I needed a camera that could film it. Hi.
Ich habe leider keine Zeit fürs Arbeiten.
Ja, dann einen schönen Tag.
Ich würde auch gerne nach Düsseldorf ziehen, jetzt nach Köln.
So. Hi.
Hallo.
Ich bin Fotograf und ich mache so eine spontane Street Photography. Ich zeig euch mal. Machst du?
Ja, ist im auf.
Hallo.
Hi.
Hi, seid ihr ein Junggesellenabschied?
Ja.
Ich bin Fotograf und ich mache so spontane Street Photography. Ich zeige euch mal, wie das ausschaut. Ich hab, Hallo. Hi, ich bin Fotograf und ich mache so spontane Street Photography. Ich zeige dir mal, wie das ausschaut. And I chose this camera because I have the 10 to 18mm wide angle lens, the EFS APS-C camera lens, and now this is the RP, this is the camera. Here is the RF mount. I don't have any lenses for RF, I only have EF and EFS lenses, and with the adapter I not only can use the full frame lenses, the EF lenses, but also the cheap APS-C camera lenses. So I could use my super wide angle lens. That's why I bought this camera. The alternative would be the Canon ATD, an APS-C camera, but I have no use for an APS-C only camera. So I would only use it for a weekend and then probably sell it. And that's why I bought the RP, so I also have a nice full frame camera as well. Okay, now the first thing I noticed was it's very light. I think it's under 500 grams. It's small. With the adapter everything gets a little bit larger, longer. I only use prime lenses. I have the 24mm L, Sigma 35 Art, 50mm L, 85mm L, 135mm L. So with some lenses, 85mm, it gets very long and the camera is very front heavy. But I feel it's totally fine. It's not really something that I noticed was negative. Although the body itself, it's small and lightweight, it's really a little bit too small to hold. So my little finger here is in the air, and I know there are accessories so you can put something under here, so you actually can hold it really nicely. It doesn't really feel so good in my hand. It's a little bit too small, I say, and it was not love at first sight. No. When I bought the camera, Amazon brought it the next day, and I unboxed it and my girlfriend was in the room. And usually, you know, when you buy a new camera, you are excited, you want to play with it, you want to try it out. I put it out of the box. It was the first time I actually got it in my hand, and it didn't really feel so well. Just some time ago I had the Sony a7 III to play with, and that camera, I got the Sony a7 III with the idea I don't like it, I don't want to like it, I stick with Canon. And the Sony a7 III performed so well in all areas where I thought this camera is going to disappoint me. The Sony a7 III actually delivered on a very high level and exceeded all my expectations. After the time with the a7 III, I was fascinated by it, and I'm a Canon fanboy, and I'm actually against the Sony technical camera philosophy. So to have too much electronics in the camera, too many menu points. Actually the menu wasn't so bad, and all the things I thought were bad, they actually weren't. So when I picked out the RP, I immediately thought about this Sony a7 III and how much better it felt in my hand. It was just an idea that came into my mind in the same moment I picked it up, and my girlfriend looked at me. She was working and she looked at me and for half an hour, and then she asked me, is something wrong? Because I was somehow not fascinated. So this was not love at first sight, and because now the two things I wanted to try with this camera in the beginning. So first thing was to use the silent mode, so you don't hear anything. But actually in all of the menus there is no silent mode, so you cannot put it on. There is a way, a compromise, when you go to the scenes mode, you can use the silent mode, so you don't hear anything, but you lose the manual control. So it's a compromise that I don't really like. So that's something very not so pleasant, because Canon can have it inside here, but they chose probably not to put it inside here, to leave it to the more expensive EOS R. So there is a differentiation between them. Another thing I noticed that was really weird is that when you put on the EFS lenses, like the 10 to 80 millimeter that I was going to use, I can shoot in 720p, which is very low resolution, or I can shoot in 4K, which is very high resolution and a lot of data, but I cannot shoot in full HD. It's not possible. I cannot shoot in 1080. It's great. I cannot shoot in 1080p with the EFS lenses, but I can shoot in 4K. But in 4K I don't have the nice autofocus. The autofocus is so bad in 4K that I have to use manual focus if I want to have reliable focus. In 7p focus is great, but it's so low resolution that I don't want to use it. And that was weird, because if the camera can shoot 4K with the APS-C lenses, why can't it shoot full HD? Now I didn't understand that. Okay, now away with the... I'm not into video so much, but let's put video out of the way. But just before that, the 4K image quality is really great with this camera. And the full HD is also really great. It's much better than the 60 Mark II that's filming now.
So, an manchen Tagen verstehen wir uns super, aber an manchen Tagen so halb, so heute und dann...
35.
Fällt mir nicht an. Fällt aber ich brauche so eine Stimme. Will ich zeigen.
Hey! Hey! 35, 1,4. Ja. Hey! Ja. Wo ist Oma? Da ist Oma. Und Papa? Wo ist Papa?
Papa.
Da ist Papa. Und wo ist Noah?
Noah.
Da ist Noah. Und wo ist Papa?
Papa.
Papa. Und Noah?
Noah.
Noah. Und Oma?
Noah.
Oma?
Da.
Da ist Oma. Fein. Sehr schön. Wir gehen jetzt auf den Spielplatz. Noah macht Fotos. Schön machst du. Schön machst du. Oh. So viele Fotos. Oh. So viele Fotos macht Noah. Voll HD, f1.4, 35 mm. Na, mein Schatz? Heute Abend wird gut gebadet, ne?
Ja. Wollen wir in die Sonne gehen? Hm? Zu Oma?
Die ist unter uns!
Wollen wir zu Oma? Yeah. Now the 60 Mark II is great, especially when you film yourself. I'm shooting now at f2.0 on the 50mm lens, and you have the face detection, which you have here also. I see myself on the screen here, which would also be the same like this. You can also see yourself here. And so I see myself when I film myself. So I can see, am I out of the frame or am I in the frame? Is my face in focus or is the background in focus when I tap on it on the screen right next to the lens? Back on my face, go away, camera follows me. This is a video function that I have here also, but not in 4K, only Full HD. Okay, so video quality is, I really like the 4K, although I have to focus manually, but that's okay because now we have focus peaking, which means I can see where the focus is manually, and it works really well through the viewfinder or here. Okay, let's go into the first photo shootings. Alan came over from London. He has a YouTube channel, Wild and Story. He also made an interview with me some month ago, and he was going to photograph people on the streets. And I took some pictures of him doing that. I used the EOS RP and the 50mm 1.8, a great combination, very small and light, and gets the job done. Autofocus, it has face detection and eye autofocus, so usually the face and the eye is in focus. 60 Mark II also has face detection, doesn't have eye autofocus as a point, but it actually has eye autofocus, but it's not named that way. Okay. I took pictures of Ellen, everything went fine. A couple of days later I went back to Hamburg alone and I photographed people on the street this time. Now I show you the images here that I took of the people. And what fascinated me, I got 2,700 images that day on the streets with one battery. And I read that the battery is really bad, so I bought 6 more batteries. Now I bought third-party batteries and I got 2 batteries for 29 euros, so I bought 6. So 29 euros for 2 batteries, which means 15 euros per battery, which is a great price. But I only needed 1 for that day, which was really incredible. I never expected to get 2,700 images with 1 battery. Now I also use this. Now let me first show you images now. And I also use this camera on weddings, and on weddings it's a very different experience. Now the reason why I got 2,700 images is I talk to people on the streets, I say hello, I'm a photographer, I take pictures of people on the streets, this is how it looks like. If you like, I can do this with you here too. Takes 2 or 3 minutes, let's go. Put out the camera, out of my bag, take the pictures in 2 or 3 minutes, put it back into the bag and then gone. Now the camera is only on when I take pictures and then it's turned off, and that's why I got 2,700 images. On weddings, usually I have 2 cameras hanging around my shoulders with the Holdfast Moneymaker, and usually it's 2 Canon 6D Mark Is, and they work great. I still use them today. Because I have the EOS RP and the 60 Mark II, which are known to have the same sensors, or nearly the same, I said, let me try both cameras. Before I went to use them on weddings, I said, I will use both cameras on a family photo shoot, me and my girlfriend and our son. 85mm on one camera, 24mm on the other. And the images turned out really similar. So I edited all with the same preset, I copy the preset to all images, and they all look nearly the same from the colors. So I took them to the weddings. RP on the one side, 60 Mark II on the other, with 2 different lenses. What I very quickly realized is that the third-party batteries that I bought, the camera doesn't show, the camera only shows it's full. With the third-party batteries, it only shows batteries full. And then from one moment to the next, it says, please change battery. And I shot 4 weddings now in the last month with this combination. And 3 of these 4 weddings, in the most important moment, the camera said, please change batteries. I was at a wedding in the church and I was not allowed to take pictures there during the process ceremony. So I took some images from the back. In the beginning I had the 24 on the RP, like now. Took an image of the church from the beginning of the church, and with the 60 Mark II I had the 135mm on it, where you can go in very closely. You see here the difference, 24, 135. After the ceremony, the female pastor said, now the photographer can come to the front and take some pictures. I came to the front. In front of me are the bride and groom and her 2 best men, and all the family behind them sitting there. I am standing there, I'm doing my thing, take up the camera, want to press the button, and it says, please change battery in this moment. And 5 minutes before, battery was shown full. And I hadn't taken many images then. The reason why the camera works so bad on weddings is because I usually have the camera on most of the time. The cameras hang here, I have them on, so I can use them quickly. Because they are on, the monitor is on. It turns off about 1 minute or 2 minutes or 4 minutes, whatever I set it to. But it is on quite often. And I have the autofocus on face detection, so the camera, when it's hanging on my shoulder, it's always looking for the face, and the autofocus is on and off. I either have to take the camera off or put the autofocus in manual, so the camera isn't hunting. Because it also makes noise when the camera is looking for a face to photograph, and it just sees the ground, and the focus goes front to back, front to back. And this is really annoying. Therefore, the battery is empty so quickly, and it happened now so often, just in the last 40 days. I've had, from 4 weddings, I have three times that the battery I had to change in exactly the moment that was the most important moment. And on the other shootings I did, yesterday I had a school, you know, when the people get out of school, they have the big celebration. I was there yesterday on one, the day before that on another one, both in Hamburg. And I also had some moments that were not so nice because the battery turned off from one moment to the next. Now I took all these big photo shootings. I always have 2 cameras with me at the same time, so I always had the other camera with me to take the picture. But it was really not a great experience to have the camera fail on me. Usually, especially with the 60 Mark I and 60 Mark II, the cameras always help me. With the 60 Mark I, 60 Mark II, I get 4,000 shots with one battery. Not always, but mostly. Sometimes 4,200, sometimes 3,800, 3,500, even when the battery is years old. So I never have to worry about battery. This camera, especially now in the last weeks, I've never had a battery fail on me in such crucial moments in the last 5 years that I had just in the last 2 days. And this for me, for weddings, is a no-go. There are 2 things that can happen that is a no-go in photography. That is, the memory card is full or the battery is empty. These 2 things will stop you be able to take pictures immediately. So I mostly shoot with high megapixel gigabyte, with high SD card. So here, let me just see if I can see it. I have 256 gigabyte SD card. I can shoot with this card the whole day and I never have to think about switching cards. I have about maybe 12, over a terabyte with SD cards, mostly 128 gigabyte, so I never have to worry about changing SD cards. And with the 60 Mark I and 60 Mark II, I never have to worry about changing batteries because I get nearly 4,000 shots every time, the way I shoot. And I have the cameras on most of the time during the wedding day. I start at 10 in the morning and I leave at 1 at night. That is 15 hours, and I don't photograph when I'm in a car or when I'm eating. All the other times I'm taking pictures and the camera is always on. This thing is so empty quickly that it's not a great choice for me on weddings. You have the autofocus. The eye autofocus is great, the face detection is great, just as it is on the 60 Mark II. You see me filming now. I can get close I can get far away very quickly and the camera follows my face much quicker than I could do it manually. We're shooting at f2.0. I can even go to f1.2. Let's put it to the extreme. Shooting at f1.2 and the camera still focuses on my face. You have this also on the RP. It works great. It's very easy to take pictures, people in focus. What I found when I shot the weddings was using the 62 EOS RP, the colors look different. The RP has a little bit more green in the image. Now here's how I edit images. I create a preset, or I use a preset and I copy it to all other images. Usually I photograph weddings with 2 Canon 60 Mark 1s, the old ones. And because they are the same camera model, they have the same sensor, every image is the same when I copy and paste one preset to all images. The images look like they are from the same camera. In this case, the RP and the 60 Mark II, if you know 2 cameras were used, you can see 2 cameras were used. If you don't know it, you probably cannot see it. But for me, it means more work in the post-processing. In the last month, I took 80,000 images in the last 30 days. So when you just take pictures of friends and families and you have 1 or 2 photo shoots a week, then it's no problem. But when you take pictures nearly every day, in the number of thousands, workflow means everything. So for me, it's not efficient to use these 2 cameras because there is a slight difference in the look. And that difference to me is enough to say I cannot use both of these cameras. I can get 2 of these or 2 of the 60 Mark IIs or stick to my 60 Mark 1s for weddings, which actually now I do. I shot 4 weddings, RP 62, and just the last wedding I photographed again with the old 60 Mark 1, 2 of them, and it was great. Here I have autofocus. I can shoot at f1.2 now and I can get autofocus very quickly, reliable. With the 60 Mark 1 I have none of that. I have a 1 center autofocus point which works great, and I have to focus and recompose, and the failure rate in focusing is much higher because I'm not as good as focusing as these cameras are. But I still love the 60 Mark 1 because I'm so used to it. I make better pictures with that one than with the newer technology, just because of my experience with it. My experience with the camera is more important than the technical issues of the camera. A better camera I don't need if I have a camera that I'm really experienced with. That is my philosophy, and I know some other photographers who are really big who also got that philosophy, like Vincent Peters, also from Bremen, who's world-class portrait photographer, used the same camera for 23 years, Mamiya RZ67, and Paul Ripke always uses a Leica with 1 lens, 24mm f1.4, shoots everything with it. And so I stick to the 60 Mark 1 for wedding. Now let's go to other territories of photography. I have a son. I love to take pictures of him and of us as a family. I do it for him, so when he grows up, he has some images of how his parents looked like when they were younger. So that's very important. I don't use a 60 Mark 1 for it, never, because for 2 reasons. On the RP and 60 Mark II, they're nearly the same, I have the flip out screen, which means that I see me now filming. I can see if I'm out of the frame or in the frame. I see if it's too bright or too dark. And I can see it because there's a flip out screen on the camera, like is here. So I can put the camera on the tripod like now and put a remote control up here and put the other remote control in the hand of my 1.5-year-old son. My son is not even 2 years old and he can take pictures. And he takes pictures just by clicking the button, and the autofocus is taken care of because of the face detection. And look at these images. These images took my son, who's 1.5 years old, and he took them all by himself. I didn't do anything. Camera on a tripod, remote control in his hand, and push the button. And this is how it looks like. And this is incredible that this is possible. It's so easy. It's not so easy that even kids can do it. It's so easy that even a baby can do it. Think about it. The autofocus, and I can shoot at any aperture, f1.2 no problem, f1.4 no problem, just with the click of a button. So for family portraits, I hold the camera like this, and I put it right on the ground, so the screen is on is really on the ground, or like this, but like this, and then I put the camera on the ground, and I can see from above my son playing, and I can put the camera a little bit up, so I photograph from the down upwards, which is the frog perspective. So I look up to him in the image, and this is a really great thing. And there are cameras that don't have a flip out screen. I don't want to miss it. I love it, especially for the family portraits and the pictures that I took of my girlfriend and my son, which is very important for me. Okay, wedding, street photography, family pictures. Let me sum it up. Some other things that I found out was, when I'm on a wedding day, I take many pictures with flash. I take about 2,000 or 3,000 images with flash. When we get to the location where the eating is, where you eat, which is 6, 7 o'clock, and I stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning. So I have 6, 7 hours of taking pictures indoors, and I get about 2,000 to 3,000 images per wedding. I use the Yongnuo EXRT 600 1 and 2 version for that. I have the flash on the camera, put it to the back or up, take a picture in TTL, and the images turn out great with the 60 Mark II. Now with the EOS RP, the images turn out very, very dark. It seems like the flash in TTL doesn't even work. And I've used this on a couple of weddings with a couple of lenses and a couple of scenarios where the 60 Mark II handled well, 60 Mark I handled well all the time, and the EOS RP handled very badly all the time and didn't get any image right in TTL. So I don't know if it's the Yongnuo flashes and Canon got a way that doesn't work anymore, or it's just that flashes in TTL don't work so well with the camera. So I don't know. I just found out that I cannot use the flashes in TTL for my wedding photography, which is a big part of the wedding. On the dance floor, for example, when the bride throws the flowers and some other girl has to catch the flowers. So it's a big it's important thing, and it doesn't work on this camera. At least in my experience, it didn't work. So I always did it with the 60 Mark II. And there were some other moments. Just yesterday and the day before that, I had a photo shoot. You know, when the school ends and they have a big celebration, all the students come together and in a very nice place. I had a photo studio built up, 2 flashes, big background, and you know, camera f10, ISO 200, 1/60th of a second, and you see the monitor is totally black because you see nothing, because it's very dark at f10. Only when I take a picture and the flashes pop off, you see the image is well lit. But you know, because there's an electronic viewfinder, which means I see the final image, but when the flashes are not powered, everything is dark, so I see only dark. When I click the focus button, just for a moment I see everything well lit because of the simulation the camera does. But then again, everything turns dark. And it was much easier to use the 60 Mark II than the RP, because I have a real viewfinder where I really see through the camera. Now, it wasn't really dark, but at f10 it was really dark and I couldn't see anything unless I pulled the flashes, and then with the flashes I can see the final image. Okay, so let me finish off with some more images that I took on the streets, of weddings, of family, so you see what you can take with the camera. If I compare it to the 60 Mark II, I took 250,000 images with the 60 Mark II in the last, from beginning 2018, took 30,000 images with this one. I like the 60 Mark II more for photography and the RP more for video. 60 Mark II feels better in my hands, battery life much better. I have the same autofocus and the same screen and the same touch functions as here, but I also have the original viewfinder, which sometimes I can switch very quickly from the live view to the original viewfinder, which I cannot do here so quickly. So there's a lot of technology in it. I don't need all of this, and some of it makes it's not faster for me to photograph. It takes longer for me. So it's something that you have to keep in mind. I learned that, which I did not expect, that the experience that I have with the camera is what makes me a photographer, not the camera. So the 60 Mark I to today is my main wedding camera, even though I have newer cameras and better cameras, but it's to today my main camera, and I win on the wedding day with that camera because I'm so experienced with it now after 140 weddings with it. This is also fine for weddings, but because of the battery, because of the experience I've had with the battery, I had moments where I felt this camera is against me. I have a special moment and the camera says, haha, no picture right now. So I have to take the battery out of my pocket, which I always have with me on a wedding day because I know about the battery problem. And I got around it, and I had another camera at my body all the time. So I always got the image, but it was not a nice feeling. And I give a camera can give me a bad feeling 1, 2, 3 times. This camera did give me a bad feeling 5, 6 times in the last 40 days, way too often. I never had such feeling with the 60 Mark I or Mark II, so this is not good enough for wedding. Great for family, great for portraits, great for smaller shootings, but not if the camera's on all the time. That was my experience. I will leave you with some more footage so you know how the images look like, and thank you very much.